Good afternoon, good almost evening, good morning if you're somewhere else. Um, Keish coming back at you with some streaming. Uh, Today's goal, let's see if I can avoid uh, taking any longer on finishing taking out the front harness. I'm going to show you some cool stuff today because I feel like I finally have an idea of what's going on here. It's a little bit different because a lot of this is wiring related, and I've been reading a lot of schematics for this car as well as this car, um, and so now I'm at the final stages where I have the dash harness for both an automatic WRX and an automatic first gen Impreza RS. I have the rear harness from the wagon. I have the front harness for the 2.5 RS or the first gen Impreza. And then I'm now working on the last piece of the puzzle, which is taking out the front harness for this O2 Bug-Eye wagon. So without further ado, hopefully my new mic treats you all well. Pay no attention to my silicone allergy blister, but I'll turn the camera around and get started on showing you what's up. So, to identify what's happening and what's connected here, there are several rubber grommets, such as this. I wish I had a long stick to point with, but that's okay. That basically come out of the engine. So you have one here, you have one there, you have one over there, and then there are a few more. The one that I've officially taken out. So this is the fender. I've unbolted it. It's all bent and out of shape, so I'm all the way here into the front. These are the crash system clips that went into there. You can see this is the corner light. So these have all officially come out of the passenger side of the car. This is what's called the front harness. So the front harness is what connects the interior chassis of the car to the front of the car. And then the dash harness is what connects everything that's in the dash along with the CPU to your transmission, and then the front harness is going to be your engine connectors there, the connector to your ABS here, the connector down here to your horn, and your radiator fans, your headlights here. Don't mind my coconut water. I'll be cracking into that later. And then, you have your horn here. You have your battery, everything that goes into the fuse box here, which is all of these cables, as well as things that connect to, and not limited to, your fuel line, your brake booster, obviously this passenger side, and then all of your connections to the engine. So the data that goes from the dash and your ECU into the engine bay essentially comes through here. Your transmission is still connected to your dash. So it's two kind of separate systems. You have your crash, your lights, your engine into one portion of the harness, and then you have your fuel also into this. However, your brakes also into this. However, your transmission has its own computer, so it's separate, which is why the ECU out of... Is everyone using this? Oh no. What is this? Porky 4K. Everyone using this right now. You still at 0? No, sir. I'm remaining at 0 because that's me. If somebody comes and wants to be here, then so be it. However, back on topic, the transmission computer for an automatic is separate to that of a manual, because a manual doesn't have all of the solenoids and control systems that need to be taken care of in relation to what's happening in the ECU. And so that's why it's two separate systems. So if I zoom in over here, you can see that you have a couple narrow clips here. You have one that's further down in the back, and then you have one over on this side. A little hard to, there it is. Now I'll take you over to the automatic transmission. It's very obvious that it's different. So automatic transmission here, you have one cable here. You have two here for your main solenoids. And then connecting back into here, these are the main ones that come out of your automatic harness. And so these are going to be the main ones that get controlled via the TCU or the transmission control unit. We recently picked up our correct WRX ECU, and then we went on a side quest to the mountains to pick up the transmission control unit. At this point in time, as far as I'm aware, the 03, 02 is the same. Everything beyond that, 04 to 07, is a slightly different unit. And so at this point, you know, we have our transmission ready to go. We need to get a flex plate, which is the automatic version of a flywheel, and then we need a torque converter, which, you know, is going to basically be the interface that a clutch would be to a flywheel, so the torque converter is to the flex plate. So pretty relatively straightforward relation there. At this point, I've gotten the ABS out, which was giving me a really hard time on both sides. The hard part is the actual connector still does not want to come out. I'm sure it's easier than I think it is, but I'm genuinely just overly cautious and a little afraid of getting these out. At this point, I have it out enough to where I'm not really concerned about getting it to come off any further. But we have this connection to the ABS that has to come out. And then on this side, we've also freed the ABS on this side. We freed mostly everything that comes into here. Everything that comes out of this grommet will have to come out. So we literally have one more connection here. I think it's the main power. It's a difficult clip and it's been annoying me for several days. I don't know what else to say about it other than that. We have our ground terminal that goes from the alternator. The battery, surprisingly, is its connections are on a separate, different line, so I'm not gonna worry about it unless I have to, and at this point I don't. And really the last clip is this one here. I think it's broken because every time that I've tried to get it to come off at this point, it's not been cooperating. And then the last bit is what connects to the inside of the car here. Clearly, it's been a bit of a disaster. However, I've started to take things apart, and I'll show you around here next. So this is the fuse box that connects to the dash. I've got it unbolted and somewhat freed up. Behind it is a bunch of other cables, and essentially, it's really hard to see from this angle, so we'll switch it around, see if we can see it from here. So there's another thick bundle. You can see the light from the fender well past these wires. That fat wire that connects to all of this is what I have to free up. So that's my challenge. I'm probably not going to get it done today. I'll be completely frank. I've been trying to work at this for several days now, and it's just slow and steady, slow and steady, slow and steady. I really was hoping to have things out and sent off by now, and that's just not been the case. And, you know, if I were a professional who'd done this before, or knew someone who had done this before, they would probably be able to help me have this done in about 30 minutes max. Because I'm me, it's probably taken 8 to 10 times as long, and it's a little embarrassing. It's a little frustrating because I really, really, really had hoped I would be further along by now. But, you know, there's not a lot I can do to change it. I was a little bit under the weather this week, and I'm still recovering, and so just trying not to get discouraged, because really, I feel bad. I want to be at the point where I'm starting to do mechanical parts removals again, and at this point in time, that just isn't the case. And so we're gonna kind of work on it for a little bit today until I'm not feeling well again, and then I'll probably call it quits for the day or for a little while and go take a rest and then try again. But let's use the camera and find this clip. So as you can see from this angle, this is the clip we're trying to remove. So if I press on it like so, then I do hear something happen, but it's not budging. And so do I need to use a different type of connector? Maybe. Do I need to use a pair of pliers? Also, maybe. But big picture, you know, that's the angle we have to work with, and it's not very easy to get to, and it's pretty much what's preventing us from yanking this guy out. But also I'm trying not to break it because clips are delicate, you know. Anyways, I will put you on the phone mount over here, and maybe I can move you into the engine bay. That way you got a little better view. So let's do that real quick. Here we are. Into the engine bay. And boom. Or at least perfect enough. Okay, I'm gonna go get my pliers. You're still attached to me mic-wise, so what else is crazy things are, and they are crazy. This morning, I was helping a doctor do a surgery on a patient who has had a heart problem for a long time, and oh look, it came out. Oh shoot. Alright, look at that. Holy crap. Alright, back to what I was saying. So, you know, basically this patient has had a really complex history for a long time. They needed a pacemaker because they had a slow heart rate, and it was our job to put it in, which an equivalent to myself put in a device this time last year. And unfortunately, which is a risk with any surgeries that happen, it got infected. And so they had to take that device out. When a device gets infected, it can cause swelling under the skin. It can cause fevers. It can cause all sorts of other symptoms as well. But basically, this patient unfortunately had all of these symptoms associated with the fact that their device was infected. They had to have it removed. And that's a pretty involved process. Generally speaking, an infection means that you no longer are safe to have that device because that device can cause much bigger problems down in the rest of your system and can absolutely wreak havoc. And, just like if you have the flu, the most extreme versions of the flus are the ones that kill people and hospitalize them and make them very, very sick. The mild versions are the ones that give you the sniffles for a few days and, maybe a mild fever, but you're all up and running within a week. And so, in that situation, you have to remove the device. The device was removed. A different system was put in August of last year. And then that system started to not work for the patient. So then basically the patient came to the doc and was like, hey, look, they put this thing in me. I don't like it. It's not working. It makes me feel sick. I want to go back to what I had before. And when a patient comes in and demands something like that, it's kind of shocking, to be honest, because, most of the time, docs have years and years of education and they make informed decisions and they do what they think is best for the patient. And then, usually the patient has great outcomes. So in a situation like this where that wasn't the case and now we have to adjust and try and help this person, not feel terrible, it just throws a big wrench in everybody's plans, and you got to think on your feet and try and figure out how to help them out. And that's essentially what we did. We had to remove her old device today, and we ended up putting in, a brand new system all over again for the third time within a year. And that's basically, that's what we helped the doc do today. And back to the original point is just crazy. Like I work in a field where normally everything goes pretty well. But I also work in a field where I follow people to the ends of their lives. Sometimes, I'm one of the last people that person sees and interacts with before they pass away. And, I take that as a great privilege and an honor. And, to be able to be part of other people's lives and impact them in a positive way and to be able to help people ends up being a really, really nice thing. So if you didn't know before, now you do. I'm a pacemaker rep, and I help docs make people better. I think most people have heard of pacemakers these days. There's pacemakers and there's defibrillators. Both are devices that help with abnormal heart rhythms. Pacemakers generally are for rhythms that are too slow, and defibrillators are for rhythms that are too fast. Basically, we're assisting the electricians of the heart. If there's a malfunction or a haywire causing ineffective power to go to any part of the heart, top to bottom, then we kind of step in and help find the solutions. And so when I'm not at home trying to partake in my hobbies, I I'm out there driving hundreds and thousands of miles to go to all over the state, really, to help people. But, you know, that's just my day job. So let's see, I'll get back to what's going on here. So this relay somebody added in basically goes from the battery into the dash, and it's actually for a boost gauge. And then, nope, sorry, this is the one that goes to the amp that was in the back of the car that was for, let me think about this for a second. It was for an amp and a sub. So there was some sort of an aftermarket stereo in this car. So that's what that cable was for. What else do we have? We have our battery connections, which are all tied up with our throttle cable. Those kind of freestanding, don't have any connections to, well, there's two for ground here, one for negative, positive, and then you have this one, which was on the starter, I believe. I think it was on the starter. That sounds about right. And the rest we'll figure out when we're putting the damn thing back together. This is your brake booster, and this is your steering. Let's see, you have your AC lines here. And then you have your coolant lines for the inside. These are all your transmission cables. I can turn the camera a little bit more now. Transmission cables. Those are your fuel lines going along the back. And we turn this way. Let's see a little more. And you have these metal lines are all for your ABS, anti-lock brake. This is your power steering, along with the power steering reservoir down here. And I feel like we're missing some stuff. This, I believe, is for brakes. But yeah, I wish I had a labeled diagram. It'd be much nicer. You can just point and be like, ooh, look, shiny. Next order of business. Whoop, lost my pliers. Next order of business is trying to get this to cooperate. Basically, maybe it'll cooperate better if it isn't inside the car. Oh, it sat right on a nerve on the top of my hand. That was not very pleasant. Alright, let's see. Where is my flathead screwdriver? I feel like I just had it. Here it is. well, stuck in the same place as last time. Basically, either this ABS clip comes out, or it finds itself a new home. And let's see if we can find. Does this have a letter wrapped around it? That's what I want to know. S. The letter S appears on that side. I forgot a ground wire. Well, how does 35 minutes disappear that fast? I really don't know. At this point, though, the nice part is we're pretty darn close. Alright. I guess we'll move over to the inside. So basically, let me take the phone off the stand. We'll trace where we're going. So officially, everything that was on this side is out. Excuse me. This ABS clip is really the last thing that gets undone, and then we're free. This was for the ground. This was for a fan. This was for a horn. This was also for a horn. Another fan, another ground. Connecting up to here. To be honest, I don't remember where this goes anymore. But it comes out of this grommet here and then goes back in to the main fuse box here. So basically, once we're free here, which we're not far off, we'll be able to pop out this little plastic portion. We'll be able to grab the little ABS here, and then the rest will come out. We'll do that on a different day, though. Until next time, I'm Uncle Quiche.